Morning, you handsome lot. Well, it is Sunday, and I've come in to put a timing belt on that little Nissan Juke there. It is a 1.5 DCI, and it is the mother-in-law's. Mother-in-law's? Should we get opened up and get this car on the ramp? Now you can probably see why I have them arms on the ramp up half the time. And the reason behind it, and I do get asked quite a lot, was years ago, the front end of this building was going to be taken off. And we're going to have roller shutter doors so you could drive straight through on every ramp. But time's passed and things never happened. But anyway, should we get this car up in the air? Right, well now that vehicle is off the floor, what we're going to be doing, disconnecting the battery negative first and also taking the cap off the coolant tank because we need to take the vehicle up in the air and drain all of that coolant out. With that vehicle up in the air now, what we're going to be doing is draining the coolant out into my lovely little receptacle. Now I have got these little funnels by Welch and they are decent and they just divert all the water away. Everybody knows by now, and if you don't, I absolutely hate mess. Now while that's draining off, I'm going to lower the ramp down a little bit, get this wheel off and also remove that inner splash guard. As you can see, I've got the wheel off and the splash guard out of the way, and I've also connected the Pickler engine support. Now this is absolutely brilliant, this is. Saves so much time, especially in a ramp and you need to go up and down. Connects to the subframe, goes from one side of the chassis to the other for support, with a little scissor jack onto the sump, so we can remove the engine mount and let it up and down and also take a ramp up in the air. Now with the vehicle still in the air, we do need to lock the crank, and how we do it I'm going to be using all data just to show you. We need to remove a little plug just underneath the starter motor, which is an e-Torx, and it does, where's it gone? There's a picture here somewhere. That timing pin goes in and it locks against the webbing on the crank, and it is that pin there. And it is also, I don't know if you're not going to be able to see it, it's easy for me to show you on a diagram than physically show you. It is up there somewhere, but anyway, I need to get that out and get that pin in. With this vehicle dropped back down, what I've done, just to make that tiny little bit more room for myself, I have removed this light here from here. Can you see? Now there is a couple of 10 mils and I've had to just pull the wheel arch off, pull a bumper, and there's a 10 mil right behind there. 2 seconds and that light is out, and I've got so much room now. So I have a little bit of access for myself. Now, with that engine supported from underneath, we can go ahead and remove this engine mount. With that engine mount swiftly out the way, we can remove the upper timing cover now. Now this is just held on with little plastic clips, and there is a little panel fit in there, but these can break. Don't panic, we have got something that will go in there when we finish the job. Right, I now need to remove this secondary engine mount, which is held on with about 4 10 mils. Right, well, we have got a little bit of a bonus. Look who's come in today on a Sunday. Oh, Benjamin. So we're going to have a little look, see what he's doing. Let's go and have a little look, see what he's doing. What are we doing, Ben? Are we doing an engine rebuild?
On my own car, yes.
On your own car?
Yeah.
And what happened on your own car, mate?
Timing chain snap, mate.
What happened to the timing chain?
It went el-fucko.
Did it el-snapperoonie, did it?
Straight into the sump.
Oh, right. Well, we are going to be helping Ben at some point throughout the day. He's plodded on with his car, so it's going to be the only learning curve for him is if he's going to do it himself. And it's his own car, so he knows that everything has to be right. He's going to be doing all the donkey work, and I'm going to be putting the chain on. So we'll sort of put this chain on for him while we're doing that car as well. Let's get back to this little engine. Now we need to time the camshaft up. Now there is a little pin to slide through the camshaft and goes into the cylinder head. A little bit like that. And then once that's pretty much in line, we're going to take that back out, send the car up, and put the crank locking pin in. Now what I've done, and I always do to these, is just wind them back a little bit. Can't do it now, but I have wound it back a little bit. I've wound the tool in, which is right up there, you're not going to see it. And then once it's wound in, pull the engine forward and make sure that it's locked on that pin. I've gone ahead now and I've moved the crank bolt on the crank pulley. Now, before we drop the engine down, I have removed the lower timing cover. What I'm going to do is just put that pulley back on by hand, give it a turn, and just make sure that that engine is still on that lock. Now, let's get this camshaft locking pin in. Now, if everything's gone to plan, that should just slide in beautifully. We're being spoiled today. This is the owner, the boss of the garage. I've got a lot of time for him. Got a lot of time for him. And he just brought me a bacon butty. And how much was it?
16 quid.
16 quid. Bit dear that. But yeah, anyway, a lot of respect for that chap. A lot of respect. Right, let's carry on with this timing belt. We go ahead and get this belt off now. On the pulley itself, there's 3/8 mils. Slacken them off before we take the tensioner off. And we can go around now. Got 13 mil. Slacken the tension off. Well, say slacken it off. Just take the 13 mil out. A little bit like that. Plonk it on one side. And we can get that timing belt now removed. And again, we've got the vehicle back up in the air. We've removed the alternator tensioner, and the simple reason being is to get this plastic cover off. Now, if you've ever done one of these, I can guarantee you now that you have forgot to put this plastic cover back on before you put the belt on. I've done it, you've probably done it. I won't be the first, and you definitely won't be the last. Let's move around now to the water pump. Remove all the 8 mils. Get a little pry bar. And just pull it back a little bit and let all that coolant drip into your little receptacle. With our water pump now removed, please be extra careful, because this gasket has sent me to A&E before now, where it's gone straight through my hand. It is a metal gasket, and it has got a perforated edge along the oil pump. And if it doesn't come off with a water pump, you do have to just work it back in two until it snaps. Now let's go ahead and get the new water pump on, which we are using my preferred timing belt kit, which is a Shaftlet INA. Brand new water pump, metal gasket. Now on this bottom bolt here, you do have to put a little bit of liquid PTFE, because it goes into a water jacket down the bottom there. If you don't do that, chances are it's going to leak. There we have it. That water pump is now back in place, torqued up to 11 Newton meters. We put that plastic cover back on, and also the alternator belt tensioner. Now we're going to drop it back down and get the belt on. Before I put all this timing belt on, what I like to do is take the camshaft pulley off and just clean around where the bolts are, especially on the back side, so it will turn nice and freely, because it can have a little bit of rust build up on the back there, and it doesn't allow it to turn freely sometimes. But I always take them off, give them a bit of a clean, and it's going to spin freely. Now with that belt now refitted, on these is a great design. There is lines on the timing belt which line up with little dots on the pulleys, and also the crankshaft as well. I don't know if you can see the line underneath there that is lining up with that dot. Now if all them are lined up, you can't really get this wrong. Now we're going to turn this tensioner. Can I get a bit of a light in there to show you? Turn the tensioner anti-clockwise until that little marker lines up and the little notch in the tensioner. Now when you're tightening it, that camshaft pulley will move ever so slightly, and that will be the perfect tension on it. Now all I've got to do is get that bolt torqued up to, I think, was it? I can't remember. 27 Newton meters. Well, I have now gone ahead and put the crank pulley back on. Now how I've torqued it up is I've left the timing pin in the crank. We've gone 120 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. And I've put, I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of yellow paint, which is at 12 o'clock, and I've gone 90 degrees, which has now gone to 3 o'clock, which is perfect. I think all I've got to do now is just wind that engine over, make sure all them timing marks are lined back up perfectly, which they should do. They should do. Going to put an 18mm now back on the crank, and wind this engine over and make sure that nothing's locking up and everything is lining back up pretty much as it should. Now I have put some Tipex marks on the crankshaft pulley and the camshaft, and everything is perfect. Right, let's get this engine built back up. And with that car all back together, we're going to be putting some fresh coolant in it. And what I like to use is a coolant vacuum and refill system, an absolute game changer. It saves a ruck of bleeding and faffing about after. Pulls a vacuum on the system, gets all the air out, and you leave it for 5 minutes or so. As you've seen when I was taking all tools off from underneath, putting the wheel arch on and one thing and another, and the needle on the gauge hasn't moved. So that means that we've got no leaks and everything's perfect. And all we've got to do now is flick his bottom switch, and that now will refill that coolant system. Pretty much like that. Brilliant bit of kit that is. If you haven't got one and you're working in a garage, think they're about £80-ish. It'll be the best investment you'll ever make. Brilliant. On these little Renault engines, even though I've vacuumed the system, down at the bottom there, just on the side of the, hang on, let me show you. We get a little torch. Just on the side of the thermostat, there is, can I zoom in? There is like a little tyre valve down there, a dust cap. You just slacken it off, and there will be a tiny little bit of air that comes out. Now I always do that just as a little bit of a precaution. Right, I think now that coolant is all topped up, we can get on the key and give it a big start. Well, I've got to connect that battery up first. Battery disconnected, coolant, all the timing pins are removed. We can get on the key now and hopefully start. If we've done everything correctly, it should start. And there we have it. Beautiful. That car is now running like a little Singer sewing machine. Right, well, while that car is ticking over and getting up to temperature, I'm going to be going ahead and putting all my tools away, and also trying to do a little bit of editing on this video, so you lot can be watching it tonight. Fingers crossed. But yeah, there you go. That is one timing belt and water pump replacement on a little Renault Nissan Duke 1.5 DCI. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please click that like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Let's get a send.